Hello, welcome and welcome back. This is Jacob and today we are gonna be continuing the module short story narrations for the various operators in Arknights. Today with the second one for Operator Siege. For the first module short story, you can refer to the description of the video at the very top or down in the pinned comment in the comment section below. And also considering that Siege is amongst the more prominent characters of the current main story arc taking place in Londinium, there will be no spoilers for that story in today's module short story. However, we're gonna be going down a trip through history, or rather memories, of a certain someone who very rarely shows his mug and mane in the stories in general, so let's see what Gawain is up to. But yeah, the module and the short story are titled Thy First Vow, and it goes as follows. Gawain ambles through the city. He spends so much time in this manner, yet still can't say he's used to seeing what he sees. Londinium's clouds are hanging low as ever. When did that start happening? He strains to recall, but can't come up with a definitive answer. As if the last time he looked to the sky, the gloomy haze was never even there. Alexandrina Vina Victoria lies sleeping on the counter in the pub. Yesterday, she and her companions made an all-too-tough escape from the beat. It strikes Gawain that she especially resembles her grandmother in these moments. Or was it her great-grandmother? The one named Matilda, the girl with a head of gold curls. How exactly was she related to Vina here? Face after face flashes by, going from young to old, ultimately scattering with the sand on the wind. Some of those faces might not even actually exist, being simply products of vaguer parts of the mind. Gawain has to admit, his time spent by this family's side may be longer than he was anticipating at first. Far longer already. He doesn't make a habit of appearing before people. The interpretations of him as a symbol of power disgust him, and hardly fall in line with his original agreement. Still, their ups and downs have kept Gawain watching with interest all the same. There'll be times he can't help but reflect on history, moments where shadows of similarity loom over them. Vina once asked him why her teacher would always be by her side, and at the time his answer was silence. Yes, he learned long ago not to meddle anymore, because farewell would always come eventually. He still dimly remembers how once he and Logal Shargus bounded about that battlefield they call the Foen Hotlands these days. He carried that meddlesome man atop his back, and with the knights Mor and Kagan by their side, they charged for the sandstorms of afar. Everyone died there, and that was the news he brought back to Lugal Shargus' daughter. He remembers the feeling of his mane wet with tears. Those times proved to pass in the twinkling of an eye. Humanity is far frailer than a master of the beasts, and the years have taught him that fact again and again. Some bygones aren't worth dredging up so often, and Gawain only recalls those periods very occasionally in his dreams. A meeting so old that history had not yet been written, a reckless boy upon the barons who never feared him one bit. Their travels together, cheers and tears, song and wine, and then his age, his death. That was the first time, not as a sovereign, but as a friend, that Gawain witnessed death. Warmth fading from flesh, breath stilling from mouth and nose. Before that, Gawain had never imagined that to witness death would be such torment. It was then that Gawain promised him that he would aid his descendants in their continued survival until they no longer needed him. The golden creature stops in his step and narrows his eyes. That friend, that boy, what was his name? Gawain sighs. Fortunately, he still hasn't abandoned his vow. And that is our little, very impactful background story on our Sovereign of Beasts, Gawain, the Lion. That very rarely, like I said, appears in stories in general, but is always prominent in Siege's arts. But also, regarding the art, obviously, we have a lot of historical artifacts here, from scrolls to coins to the crown to what looks to be like a stamp of sorts, but also a parchment which I presume represents the vow he gave, plus a either bloodied or just paw print on top of it, signaling his signature, probably. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but does definitely look like a paw print is right there on the parchment. So I'm just assuming, but very, very interesting. So he was, like already said before, with the Aslan family for generation upon generation, but he was there all the way since he met a young boy at some point in the past, a young Aslan boy, and that whole bloodline would then later become what we know today. Also very interesting, he was part of the Aslan going into the Foreign Hotlands as we know it today, Lugal Shargus, and a Knight's Morin Kagan accompanying him, who was probably on his Kagan quest at that point, and they went to conquer the desert, only to lose their lives. One thing I found out, however, very interesting is the name here. Apparently, a combination of two different words. One I think is Sumerian from what I saw, but apparently the name Lugal Shargus translates when you separate them into King of Sargon, for all intents and purposes. So yeah. That is the bloodline. That is what we're dealing with here. But anyway, let us go now and see what the module does for Siege. First and foremost, let's go over the base traits and talents before doing so. So then, Siege is a Vanguard, so traits blocks 2 enemies. Talent, King of Beasts. All Vanguard operators attack and defense plus 8%. And the second talent is Crushing. Obtain 1 skill point when an enemy in the 4 surrounding tiles is killed. So the tiles top, bottom, left and right of Siege. Now, the first module was upgrading her trait to have an additional 8% attack and defense for her while she's blocking enemies, and also down the line it was also increasing further attack and defense by another 8% for her and other operators on top, and it was stacking, of course. Now we have a different module. Thy First Vow upgrades her basic health and attack, which is nice. It also makes it so that her first deployment cost is reduced by 4, which is very nice, meaning you can deploy her way faster than usual, considering she costs a whopping 13 by default. But what does it upgrade further? Now, considering the previous module upgrade King of Beasts, this one upgrades Crushing. And it does the following. So, on originally, it's obtain 1 skill point when an enemy in the 4 surrounding tiles is killed. Now it says gain 2 SP and additionally grant 1 SP to another random Vanguard operator on the battlefield whenever an enemy is defeated in the adjacent 4 tiles. And on stage 3, it will upgrade the first portion here, so instead of 2, it will be 3 SP to Siege. It's a nice upgrade. But honestly feels more like a very niche, more niche looking module, but she turns into an SP battery for another Vanguard. If you're running 2 Vanguards and have a lane where you can deploy Siege to, you know, just one-shot every single tiny little enemy that appears in front of her, pretty much lane holding just something small approaching, she will be providing quite a lot of SP to other vanguards, and that means you can gain deployment points way faster, especially if the other vanguard is a flag carrier. So, you know, fast cycling of skills, essentially. But yeah, like I said, this one feels way more niche compared to the previous one. The previous one is just a straight up attack and defense buff for Siege and other vanguards. And this one is a SP battery, essentially. But yeah, it depends how you want to run Siege, but in my most use, even though I don't use her too often, in my most use I'm probably gonna stick to this one. It's probably gonna be my choice, considering the extra attack and defense, and eventually I'll upgrade that to stage 1 to gain the extra attack and defense on top of it. But anyway, that will be it for this one. We went down history lane, learned a bit about Gawain, who very rarely appears anywhere. As of this recording, I obviously do not know if he will have a more prominent role in the future story, main story that is, considering that this is being recorded just days before Chapter 13 is going to be released onto the global side of things. But we'll see when the time comes. I am definitely excited to see where things are going to be going from here. And to learn more about the history of this world, of course. But anyway, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like on it, it will help me out a lot. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing as well. There's a lot more on the channel than just these short stories for the modules. If you wanna, speaking of main story, if you just wanna sit back, relax, and listen to the entire main story, both narrated and voice acted, the link is also provided in the description, so have a go and enjoy. And enjoy catching up. And of course, if you want to support me and my work more directly, there are memberships on the channel as well. And thank you for the members who are already there. And as always, there will be no videos behind a membership. It's purely there to just support me and my work, so thank you very much. And yeah, hype for the next portion of the main story. So I hope you have a fantastic day wherever you are, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, bye bye.